Welcome to Top 10 Archive. Death should never be a laughing matter, but sometimes it can be painfully ironic. From gun-toting camels to vitamin A poisoning, in this video we will look at 10 of the most ironic ways people have died. Number 10. John Horrocks. John Horrocks was a pioneer and explorer in the 19th century. Horrocks was a camel enthusiast and was keen to introduce the animals to Australia, as he felt they would do well there. This mission came to an ironically abrupt end. One day, his foul-tempered expedition camel managed to shift its weight so that the pack it was carrying caught Horrocks' weapon, causing it to go off. Sadly, Horrocks was loading the gun at that very moment, so the shot took off a few of his fingers before moving on to his face. John Horrocks later died of gangrene, but not before giving orders for the camel to be shot as well. This means that the first and only camel-human gunfight in history technically ended in a draw. Number 9. David Grundman. David Grundman had two loves in his life, his shotgun and a massive need to shoot at things. One day in 1982, David drove into the desert with a friend in order to flex his testosterone with his weapon. He opened fire at some small saguaro cacti, obliterating them with his shotgun shells. But destroying small saguaros was way too easy and boring, so he set his sights on a bigger and more powerful target. Grundman focused his attention on a huge 26-foot or 7.92-meter saguaro they found nearby. He opened fire at it and with just one shot managed to blast off a massive chunk of the plant's arm. In an impressively instant case of revenge on the part of Mother Nature, the wounded cactus fell directly on Grundman and crushed him to death. Would this be ruled murder by a cactus or suicide? Number 8. Sir Francis Bacon. Sir Francis Bacon is a well-known author and advocate of the scientific revolution. In 1626, while looking out the window one snowy afternoon, he had an epiphany of sorts. Bacon decided that if salt could keep meat fresh, then so could snow. The next day, Bacon purchased a chicken from town and began his experiment. After stuffing snow down the chicken's throat, after killing it, it was concluded that snow does not preserve meat. As a result of spending too much time in the cold with insufficient clothing, Bacon contracted terminal pneumonia and subsequently died. Number 7. Pietro Aretino. Pietro Artino was an Italian author, poet, and 16th century satirist, notable for his saucy humor aimed at the aristocrats. As such, it is only fitting that this famous humorist's death was brought on by a dirty joke. Aretino was never one to shy away from a naughty story, and one day he was told a particularly dirty one about his possibly imaginary sisters and the brothel they worked in. Instead of becoming offended, Aretino found it hilarious. He laughed and laughed and laughed, until he collapsed backwards in his chair, dying as he hit the ground. He literally laughed himself to death, resulting from suffocation. Number 6. Basil Brown. Most people who pay attention to their diet are likely to live longer than those who don't. However, Basil Brown didn't fit into this category. In 1974, Mr. Brown managed to drink himself to death with one of the healthiest imaginable drinks in existence, carrot juice. His problem was due to drinking way too much of it, literally a gallon each day for 10 days straight. Despite warnings, he didn't realize that too much of a good thing can quickly become very bad. The massive dose of carrot juice gave him severe vitamin A poisoning, resulting in bright yellow skin and a completely ruined liver. He ended up dying as a result of his healthy obsession. Number 5. Sunandha Kumariratana. Sunandha Kumariratana was a princess in Thailand and daughter of King Mongkut in the 1870s and 1880s. She died from drowning when the boat she was on capsized, while her servants stood nearby and watched. The ironic part of her story is that her servants could have likely saved her life, but they were forbidden to touch her because of her status of being a princess. Number 4. James Otis Jr. James Otis Jr. was a lawyer, political activist, and legislator during the American Revolution. He coined the famous phrase, "Taxation without representation is tyranny," which became one of the rallying cries of the revolutionaries. He was reported to have said, "My dear sister, I hope, when God Almighty in his righteous providence shall take me out of time into eternity, that it will be by a flash of lightning." Apparently, someone was paying attention to his wishes. On May 23, 1783, it is said that James Otis Jr. was standing in a doorway of a friend's house when lightning suddenly struck the chimney, killing him instantly. Ironically, no one else in the house was harmed. Number 3. Clement Laird Vallandigham. Clement Laird Vallandigham was a politician and lawyer in Ohio in the 19th century. In 1871, he was representing a defendant in a murder case for killing a man in a barroom brawl at the Golden Lamb Inn. Vallandigham attempted to prove the victim, Tom Myers, had, in fact, accidentally shot himself while drawing his pistol from his pocket while rising from a kneeling position. Selecting a pistol he believed to be unloaded, he put it in his pocket and enacted the events as they might have happened, snagging the loaded gun on his clothing and unintentionally causing it to discharge into his belly. Vallandigham's demonstration proved his point, and the defendant, Thomas McGeehan, was acquitted and released from custody, although Vallandigham died in the process. Can we say, best lawyer ever? Number 2. KurtFriedrich Godel. Every married man can probably vouch that they enjoy their wife's cooking. KurtFriedrich Godel was an Austrian mathematician, philosopher, and logician, and he was no exception to the rule. Later in his life, he developed a mental disorder and was in constant fear of being poisoned. For this reason, he would only eat meals prepared by his wife. After his wife became ill and was hospitalized for 6 months, Kurt literally stopped eating. He later died on January 14, 1978, in the Princeton Hospital in New Jersey due to malnutrition. Number 1. Michael Anderson Godwin. A 28-year-old convicted murderer by the name of Michael Anderson Godwin avoided the electric chair by a subsequent overturn on appeal. While serving life in prison instead of waiting on death row, Karma decided to take his fate into her own hands. While sitting naked on a steel toilet in his cell, Michael was attempting to fix a pair of headphones that was connected to his television set, when he bit into a wire and subsequently turned his stall into an electric chair. He was later found by guards and pronounced dead in March of 1989. Like these top 10 videos? Subscribe by clicking the annotation here and give our video a like. Have an idea for a future top 10? Leave a comment in the section below.